I gotta say, there's probably a lot of activities I haven't been able to do simply because of my asthma.
When I went out of town a couple times, you could feel the difference in like the air quality.
Is it possible for students to limit their exposure? I don't see how.
I've had asthma all of my life. It was very much a lot worse when I was smaller. I still carry an inhaler today, albuterol. Um, I only use it occasionally, but asthma still affects me today.
It started, I believe, when I was like 8 years old, and the way it affected me was that like multiple times I'll have to miss school because I was in the hospital. It mainly came from like colds, like getting sick, and then it flaring up. But most of the time, the inhaler didn't. It was temporary, like it only helped for a certain amount of time, and I usually had to be in the hospital for like 4 days at a time.
Do I think it's had an effect on the health of my students? I would probably say yeah, but I don't have statistical data to back that up. We have poor attendance at our school. Is it possible that some of that is due to asthma-related conditions? It's possible, but as far as that goes, yeah, I've had students that have told me they have asthma. We tend to do a physical fitness unit where we actually physically perform exercises at the end of each semester. And I have had some students tell me, hey, mister, I've got asthma. I've had a great experience teaching these kids. Educationally speaking, emotionally speaking, it's been great. I love the kids there. But I think that it definitely has an impact. That's just an educated guess I'm going to make. With all the industry that exists in this part of town, it's impossible not to be affected by it. Impossible.
I think what a lot of people don't realize about air quality is that it permeates everything that we do. So we have less performance, whether that's at work, whether that's at school. We do know that it affects our birth outcomes. We do know that it affects childhood asthma. We know that it affects the elderly and what we call vulnerable populations especially. And so I think what people don't realize is that it's not something that is removed, but it permeates everything in our life. And so I think a lot of people also grow up with poor air quality and therefore don't even necessarily realize the way that it's affecting their health and their well-being and their quality of life. And so I think addressing that is incredibly important and educating people about the avenues they can take to improve the air quality in their communities. You can call your council member, you can reach out to your state representative or state senator, and talk to them about what actions are out there, what bills may be out there, connect with them, and connect with your community. Another avenue to go is to write letters to the editor, to engage with media, to ensure, again, that the public is aware of the issues that you're facing.
So it seemed like the beginning of this year, I started to have troubles breathing. I really didn't see a doctor until almost that half of the year. But I was using medication. My sister was basically almost born with asthma and lived her whole life with asthma, so I already had the medicines available. So I started doing breathing treatments with albuterol and using Pro Air inhalers, which I never really used, even though I was prescribed them in the past when I was about 24, when I was diagnosed with asthma. This past year I had about 4 asthma attacks. My most recent was probably about a month ago. I was just really wasn't doing nothing strenuous, just running around trying to do what I do normally in my work day, which is a lot, but nothing like really hard running or no hard or strenuous work. It was just a busy day. We had visitors from Best Buy who graciously donated $10,000, and were basically just taking a tour of the site and seeing what we were doing. And I couldn't talk to him. Every time I talked to him, I sounded like Darth Vader trying to speak. And that's shortly after when they were about to leave. Lex was like, "Yeah, you need to go to the emergency room. You look pale." And then once my wife Rosie seen me, it was like immediately after that we had to go to the emergency room.
I've been working with researchers from the University of Michigan for the past 20 years, looking at issues around air quality and pollution and how it impacts people's health in our community. I think that the whole issue around air quality and air pollution in our community is one of the most important issues that impact so many people's health in this community. We have some of the worst air in the state. It is some of the most polluted areas of the state of Michigan and some of the most polluted actually in the country. And we have a lot of children who have asthma. We have a lot of elders who have asthma. And actually with some of the research that has been done in our community, we have found that the air quality not only affects your breathing in your lungs, it also affects your heart. So they've discovered that when we have spikes in the air pollution, that within a couple of days there's a lot of people that are having, their blood pressure gets increased, they're having heart attacks and strokes. So it also is really dangerous for elderly people, people that are sick, as well as children. So the air quality is really bad. So the air pollution in our community comes from a number of different places. One of the places, of course, is all of the industry. It's really strange why they built the city the way they did, but we have the most densely populated part of the city, which is mixed right in with some of the heaviest industry. Right, so you've got people living right in the shadows of Marathon Oil and DTE and a whole lot of different polluters. We also have all the freeways that come through. And the bridge to Canada, which is the busiest border crossing in the country. So we have a tremendous amount of truck traffic. So the diesel fuel from the truck traffic also contributes to the air quality. We have a lot of children who, that's the number one cause of why kids miss school in our community is because of health problems, usually with asthma. So we have teachers like in elementary school who have 10 to 15 inhalers on their desk because of the number of kids that have asthma in their class. DHCC has been involved in working on the issue around air quality for really the whole 20 years. It started by working at, we were part of the Community Action Against Asthma that was dealing with air quality, and then Healthy Environments Partnership that was working on cardiovascular disease, but then again found that the air quality was contributing to that as well too. So I'm part of a group called the Community Action to Promote Healthy Environments that's working on an action plan, a public health action plan around air quality and what are some of the things that we can do in our community to improve the air. And I'm also part of the community advisory group around the new bridge that's going to be built, the Gordie Howe Bridge, and how to improve the health of the community around the increased truck traffic. So doing things like adding filters to people's homes, trying to create carbon buffers, getting trucks to add components to retrofit their engines so that they're polluting less and using different kinds of fuels. I realized that this needed to change, I guess over time. We always knew in this community that the air was bad because it smelled bad, it felt bad. I remember one time I was with one of my friends passing out literature in Delray, and our throats started to burn, our noses were burning, and she actually got sick and started throwing up because the air was so bad. And we were only out there for maybe 10 minutes. It was in the middle of the summer, so it was worse because of the heat. So we knew that the air was bad. We just didn't have any of the science to prove it. But since I've been working with the researchers from the University of Michigan and have found out a lot more information about where the pollution's coming in from, how many people it actually impacts, how many people die, how many deaths we could prevent if we were to improve the air, it really has become an important issue for me. I remember there were these consultants working for the state about wanting to increase the amount of trucks into our community, and I was telling them how bad the air was, and they told me, Ms. Reyes, the air's already bad in this neighborhood. A little bit more pollution is not going to make any difference. I said, really? That's not true. It all adds up on top of each other. So they were telling the wrong person because I had all this information already. So I was able to challenge that whole notion that it's already bad and a little bit's not going to make a difference. It does make a difference.